so to hear someone actually using true healthy mental health ad- advice that could help me step into a better season, it did. It was like a light bulb moment for me, and I'm like, you know what? No, I am going to do that.
The two of you did this together, and now I know I did hear some of your story again already, Tracy, but I think anyone, listening to this or watching this may think, gosh, yeah, they got to do it together. For anyone else who's done it together might be thinking, they had to go through this together. And there can be a both and there, how we would say it. And so if I may ask, I mean, you two are still sitting here together today and you're fully out, you've had a complete shift in your worldview. But as you were going through that transition together in these phases and being so young yourselves, may I ask, how bad did it get?
Ooh.
Yeah, it got bad. I mean, it really did. It got to the point where
he was in a hotel.
I was in a hotel because I couldn't.
I was at home
I couldn't take it because the problem is when you leave an environment like that, but you don't even know what to do with it. You don't know what to do with the bitterness and the anger
and you don't know what's really true.
No,
and what's really right.
So you're all over the place. And the church we attended, great people. We still have friends from there to this day. They tried their best, bless their heart. They had never seen nothing like this because they were like, "What in the world?" And,
well, they may have seen something like this. I have no idea. We don't know what they experienced, but it was just a new experience for us.
Yes.
Okay, yes. And when you start digging into, what is really true and what is really right and who God really is, and you start getting down into your stuff, it gets into your stuff, right? And I had secrets. And so, and there was one piece of the story that I'll share that had a huge impact on our marriage. And it was the fact that I developed just gradually over time until it got like pretty severe, some pretty severe OCD tendencies, particularly around my floors. I cleaned all my floors every single day on my hands and knees with a water bucket and a rag because a mop just spread germs around. In my mind, there was no mopping. It was going to be. And I did it at least twice a day. And then anything that could be vacuumed was vacuumed at least once a day, but probably more like 2 or 3 times a day. And I was just, everything had to be clean, but I was particularly like the floors in my house. And it was a fixation. And I realize now that it's because there were so many things that had happened in my life that had been out of my control and so many things about my life that I did not understand. And there was just so many things that were just so wild, right? There was one thing that I could control, and that was how clean my floors were. And I needed that level of control to feel sane because so much in my life felt so disjointed and just wild within my own head. And so I got crazy about the floors, and Matt would be sitting there at the table eating dinner, and I would have the little handheld vacuum cleaner vacuuming underneath the chair while he was eating because some crumbs may have fallen down. And so this kind of stuff was going on in addition to, just we're young, we have 2 babies, we've just made a huge life transition out of, an environment that really is your whole environment. And so you're building everything again, and all of these things are big things, right? And so it's just difficult times are revealing. Difficult times are revealing. And so then at some point, Tracy has to talk about the things that have happened, right? And so it was yucky. It was just like a really yucky season. And I will say that the church that we were in, I feel like that God specifically wanted us there because of the pastor and his wife was at that church, because they said the things that we needed to hear in that season. They did. And that pastor's wife loved me so good. I mean, she was so precious and tender towards me, and she would share pieces of her personal journal. Like she would copy it and she would send it to me and let me see it. She had lost her father at a young age in an accident. So she had grown up without a father figure. And because of that, she had had a lot of struggle in the beginning of her faith journey with trusting God. And so she talked at length about this stuff within her private journals, about her process of coming to trust God. And she shared all of that with me, just very openly and vulnerably, if this is what she had went through in her mind, and this is what she had been thinking and feeling. And of course, that's exactly where I was at. I didn't trust God at all. I didn't think that He loved me. I didn't think there was a possibility for me to have a relationship with Him. And so the fact that she was just so vulnerable with me and so open with her own process of coming to understand that God is trustworthy had a huge impact on me. And she developed relationship with me. And for the first time in my life, I told somebody things I had never said out loud before. And her response was just to love me.
Mm.
And I thought, if she can know everything there is to know about me and still love me, there may be the chance that God could do the same. And that was the very first time in my life that opened up, like that idea that God could love me. I could be in real relationship, like real healthy relationship with Him. And that was new. That was a new thought process for me, because I had been over here in this completely, like, that's unattainable. I can't have that. It's not for me. It's not going to happen. And that was life changing for me. Life changing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think during that process, seeing her to be able to trust somebody, because I think she loved me the best that she could, but because of her relationship with her parents, her father in particular, there was no trust there. So I don't feel like because of the environment we were in, that she wasn't able to even share with me, and that was my frustration. Was like, I know there's problems here, but we can't continue on just scrubbing floors. We've got to be able to move forward. What in the world can we do? And I didn't know what to do. I'm just trying to, I'm like, okay, I wear a bracelet. What would Jesus do? What in the world, what can we do here? But the truth is, when we were both able to trust somebody, I realized that in an unhealthy church environment, you are much more apt to keep secrets, because that's the only way that you can survive in that type of environment. It's like, okay, if I don't tell nobody, I can get away with this little thing. I mean, you have to realize it was an environment where they would preach against reading the Reader's Digest. So you would have to sneak. I'm not lying, sneak to read the Reader's Digest. So if that's the case, then that's a secret. Oh my goodness, no, I don't get the Reader's Digest. No, my neighbor does, and I go over there and read it. I pay for it so the neighbor can get it. But so seeing her being able to open up to her, and that helped me to to be able to open up to our pastor there.
Well, there was,
it really
like, when
started to
he
change.
when he went to the hotel and told me he wanted a divorce, that was huge, because divorce was a huge
Yes.
sin within these church. Like, you did not even use the word divorce. You did not say that. And so when he said that he was done, it blew my mind, really, because you didn't even, like I said, that wasn't a word you even used. And I'm just sitting at home with these two kids with my mind blown that, this is even happening. And then obviously realizing, if we're gonna find a way forward, some things have to change. Like, something has to change. It can't be the way that it was. And so, yeah, I'm over here, and and he's over here having conversations with the pastor of the church, and his wife's loving me, and the pastor is talking to Matt. And he said something that totally flipped Matt's mindset within this whole situation. He said, "Matt, you realize that she's been waiting for this, right? Like, she's been waiting for you to do this, because everything in her history has taught her that men will always hurt her. And you are just doing what she expected you to do. Now you have to do the unexpected thing." And something about that challenge, or that phrasing of, this is what she expects. You have to do the unexpected thing. Just keep loving, keep caring, keep fighting for your marriage. And something about that flipped a switch in his mind, and he decided he was going to do the unexpected thing.
Well,
And keep loving and fighting.
Yeah, I think for the first time I'd actually heard a healthy bit of advice. I'd heard something that actually made sense. It wasn't, well, this,
you just need to pray more.
You know, if you and Tracy would just, if you would allow the Holy Spirit just to move. And I told you, if you started wearing short sleeves, this is what would happen. I mean, seriously, those kind of conversations, we have heard those conversations. And so to hear someone actually using true, healthy mental health advice that could help me step into a better season, it did. It was like a light bulb moment for me. And I'm like, you know what? No, I am going to do that. And I'm sure, and I'm not sure, I know that watching my dad love my mother, it played into that. Even though my poor dad and mom, I'll never forget that I called them and said, listen, Trace and I, it's bad. We may not be able to reconcile this. And poor dad, he was like, "Oh, son, we'll definitely be praying. We'll definitely be praying." He didn't know he didn't see, give me no. I'm like, Dad, come on, this is your moment. Give me some advice. But he didn't, because you just didn't talk about that. That talking about divorce or separation wasn't even part of the conversation.
So most people didn't know how to respond.
No, he didn't. So.
He definitely had his. You had your foot out the door more than your foot. I think you had only your pinky toe was still inside. Everything else was still outside. You were on your way out the door. And something about that conversation flipped something inside of his mind. And he decided that he wanted, for us to work towards it. Obviously, a crisis moment like that, you realize something has to change. Mm-hmm. And so that's when you start digging into all of your history and the things that are uncomfortable to say and all of your secrets. And then you have to start digging through about what you really believe to be true about God and what does the Bible really say. And you kind of have to give yourself a clean slate and just wipe away everything you've ever heard because everything you've ever heard has had some, twisting or turning of things to manipulate a theology that is just so far outside of what is actually true. You have to just completely wipe that slate clean and start from the beginning. Yeah. Like, who is God? Is he real? What is the Bible? Can it be trusted? And just build a foundation of faith from the ground up. And so that's kind of where we were at that crisis moment.
And I will say, coming out of that, I feel like it gave us both a confidence to be able to say, you know what, if it's not biblical, we're actually not going to just allow somebody to steamroll us over with that. And we're going to live by truth. We're going to live by biblical truths. And I think that was a turning point for us to go, you know what, if our families, don't like it, that's their loss. We don't really, it's not that we don't care, but we understand that we have to do what is right according to the Bible, not according to what they think is right for us.
It does cement some things in your mind. You have to reach that point where you lay aside everything that you're hearing. Lay aside everything that you're hearing, because you're hearing, like I got a letter in my mailbox that told me that I was going to hell, that my children were going to go to hell, and that their blood was going to be on my hands because I had made the decision to leave the church that I had grown up in. So that's the kind of stuff that you're hearing, and you're wrestling with that in your mind. Like, am I really going to hell? What is, I guess I am going to hell because God doesn't love me. God doesn't. And so you literally have to lay every bit of the things that you've heard down, from the teaching that you've heard, from the criticism, from all of it. And you just have to start building your own faith, building your own thing. And it takes a lot of courage to do that, to make that step. And it takes a lot of tenacity, because that's not a one-step process. You're hearing consistently those things in your head that you've been told, and you consistently have to lay them down. Yeah, and how you lay them down is through the Word of God. Because if it doesn't align with the Word, it gets laid down, right? It becomes the ruler that everything is measured by. And that's where we went, to the Word of God.
And in that laying down, there's also, I hear you both speaking about it, especially you, Tracy, when you reference the secrets that you had, there's also this laying down of the facade. that we're holding on
Exactly.
to. And it's not a facade that we have for no good reason, right? We have it because we're terrified and we were taught to be
Right.
terrified. So we came by it honestly. It was
Right.
fair to have it. And yet I can think back to different conversations I've had with people where I've just had to say, this makes me look really ugly right now, but it's the truth of where I'm at. And if I'm not honest
Exactly.
about that, it's just going to fester and we're not going to get anywhere. And so I've had to say some really self-incriminating things at points to people, including my spouse at times, where I'm like, this is going to, I look bad, and it is bad, but this is the reality of it. And taking that risk on, you know what? And I think I just hit this point. I don't know when, I mean, I hit it in phases depending on the relationship, but I remember hitting these points of, well, you know what? The Bible said God knows my heart anyway. So what on earth am I bothering? This is taking so much energy.
Right.
What am I doing it for? He already knows. So is it really that I'm going to be damned because I actually said it, or is I going to be damned because I actually felt it? I mean, why not go ahead and say it? And then maybe it won't stay true. Maybe I'll be able to move on and be somewhere else because I want to be somewhere else.